You're from my neighborhood, you got three ways out. You could join the army, you could get mobbed up, or you could become a star. Big girls don't cry. Big girls don't cry. Walk like a man, fast as I can. Walk like a man from you. I'll tell the world, forget about it, girl. And walk like a man from you. Walk. Begging you. Put your loving hands out, baby. Begging you. Put your loving hands out, baby. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You'd be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much. At long last, love has arrived, and I thank God I'm alive. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off you. Who loves you, pretty baby? Who's gonna help you through the night? Who loves you, pretty mama? Who's always there to make it? Who loves you? Who loves you, pretty baby?
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining me and my special guests, the gentlemen who star in the New York production of the hit musical Jersey Boys. Please say hello to Aaron DeJesus, who plays Frankie Valli, CJ Pawlikowski, who plays Bob Gaudio, and Jonathan Cable, who plays Nick Massey. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you?
Oh, we're doing great.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
So good. So good.
Thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
Watching that B-roll, it's great to have you guys. Watching highlights of Jersey Boys, it is such a feel-good musical, right?
It really is.
And so I was getting a little emotional watching the people because I'm like, it is like an honor to be a part of this show. It's like, it's a beautiful thing.
Well, I was going to ask you guys, first of all, how are you and where are you all coming from?
So
CJ first.
So I'm currently in Manhattan. I'm still in my apartment, and we've been going strong. Things are good. Can't complain. Yeah, it's like neither here nor there.
Got it.
Go ahead, Aaron.
We're doing well. It looks my wife came down and tested positive with the virus, and I think we all got it. She had the most severe case, and we're just getting over it finally in the last week or so. We're all starting to feel better, just in time for allergy season. Actually, it's quite convenient. So I came off of not dealing with smell and taste, and now I'm sneezing and itching my eyes. So here we are. We're doing well, though.
Yeah. Jonathan, for you, where are you?
I'm up in Harlem. I'm by myself. My roommates went to Long Island because they've got a house out there, or their mom has a house out there. So I'm holed up by myself, doing like a little artistic sabbatical, playing music and singing. And I like to say I'm still performing once a day at 7 o'clock on my balcony, banging pots.
I am too.
With my neighbors. And I'm on the 129th, and we've got a trumpet player down the street, and he like sticks his head out and like plays us little trumpet solos every day.
We have a trumpet player too. How funny is that?
Yeah.
We have a drummer. Yeah, we have a drummer that plays on the corner here, and we have these kids across the street who have these big pieces of chalk, and they write these beautiful little sayings every night with their parents, which is really cool. Aaron, I want to go back to you. So you had this all in your family.
We did, yeah. My wife came down. Her case was much more severe. She went in, got tested. She actually spent a day in the hospital being treated for some of the symptoms. And it was really, really rough on her. And my daughter and I also eventually both got it. We got mild cases, though. For the two of us, it was very mild. My wife, however, had a really, really rough go for quite a while. It's literally been, 5-6 weeks of symptoms and getting it finally to like get out of our system. Yeah. So we've just been holding up in our house here in New Jersey and, doing our best to heal and try to stay healthy and sane, because we're also playing teacher because our daughter is in second grade and now we have to do all this work. So
did you talk to other people? Because I've had a lot of actors here who got it and they would text or email each other saying, oh, I'm going through this now. Did you go through this? And they're like, yeah, this will last 4 days and you'll move through this, but this is the next wave of this. Were you in contact with other people who had it?
We were. There were a few other friends and other actors that went through it. But something we discovered too was, although some of the symptoms are very similar, everybody's different, and everybody's body dealt with the symptoms in a different way. And so for me, I didn't have taste or smell for about a month. And for other people that lasted 10 days, or 9 days or 2 weeks. But for me, it was a month, almost 5 weeks. So, but yeah, it was nice to be able to kind of talk and commiserate a little bit. And we're still discovering things about this and learning new angles and new problems. And that's another thing, is nobody really knew what this was, and we're finally learning, but we're still also learning new things.
Yeah. I was going to ask you guys, Broadway and all New York theaters shut down on March 12th. How did you guys find out, and what was that day like for you, and how long did it take you to sort of wrap your minds around what was actually happening?
I remember during the show on the 11th, I believe, which was our last show, we learned that the NBA was suspending their season, and we were like, we're done for. There's nothing left. So we kind of had bets going, leaving the theater that night, if we were going to be coming back and doing the show again tomorrow.
Well, and we were supposed to have a rehearsal on Thursday with our choreographer, and we were, as we left the building that night, I think our stage manager said, I'll be in touch tomorrow about, whether or not we're going to have that rehearsal. And so we were all like, oh, this is serious, along with like the NBA thing.
Yeah.
It was
Aaron,
really
the same for you. Yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of surreal. I remember doing that last show on the 11th and thinking, are we going to come back tomorrow? And when we found out about the NBA and news was starting to spread, other big group, things about big groups and all that kind of stuff. And it was just kind of surreal going through the show and being like, are we going to come back tomorrow? And kind of that feeling of the unknown, what's going to happen.
Wasn't it also that same day that we found out that there was an usher in one of the Broadway theaters that
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
That's also like, along with the NBA thing, it's like those things happened in the same hour that we read those stories.
Right.
Dressing room, and so we were like, okay, that's gonna be
something's gonna happen.
We didn't understand the severity of it right away. Because I remember saying over and over, I was like, they'll never cancel Broadway. No, they can't do that. And here we are.
So let's talk about later. Let's talk about that a month and a half later. Were you able to add structure into your life right away? Because everybody I've had here, that was the hardest thing they were dealing with for the major part of this, especially when it first started. They were like, first, a lot of people told me they were tired of just, a lot of shows hadn't opened. They were on this train of going from, rehearsals, tech rehearsal, previews, doing changes, and on their mind, they had opening nights. You're on this train and you're working so hard for this. They were like, that first week or two was just, my body was just so tired, they would tell me and say, I just slept for a week. And then they were like, I want to start putting some kind of structure in my life so a day just doesn't blend into another day. So what was it like for you three guys? Like, I know that, Aaron, your family got sick right away, but when were you able to realize, oh, today's Monday, the next day was Tuesday? What kind of structure did you add into your life, and when? I feel like I took a solid 2 weeks
to just enjoy the nothingness and the void. And just like you said, like I slept a lot. I bought a Nintendo Switch right before the lockdown. Video games for the first time in years. I'm a Zelda fan now. But I honestly, I feel like I'm just now implementing some structure, and like found that motivation to like get up early in the morning and go on like a 3-mile jog to start off your day on the right foot. And like, yeah, I feel like I'm just now getting to that point.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I took probably a month to, I didn't have a whole lot of structure until my Wii broke. Once my Wii broke and I didn't have a stupid NFL game from 2012 to play every day, all day. I mean, and even while I would go back and forth from the Wii to sitting at the piano and playing through some music that inspired me or something. And I've been pretty good about, breakfast every day as like a grounding point. But especially in the last couple of weeks, I've been rediscovering music that I enjoy singing and kind of really getting back into running and biking and working out. And yeah, it wasn't. I gave myself, and I think it's healthy to give yourself a good break and an adjustment period to this trauma that we're all going through.
Yeah, it's interesting. We unfortunately couldn't not be structured once they started sending the schoolwork home and having that workload on the parents of the kids. And so, we're not waking up at 7:30 in the morning, thank heavens. And, our daughter is actually she's a show kid. And so she grew up her whole life with me being in this show and my wife being in other shows. And, until she started school, she was, staying up till midnight or 1 o'clock with us and then waking up the next day at 11 or noon. It was amazing. But we were forced into structure at the beginning. And it was a little challenging because my wife was very sick. And so we would sort of tag team it. But, I was trying to work out throughout all that. And I did a lot of lifting. And the costumers are going to be very upset when I get to the theater because my chest has grown like 2 inches. But like, I'm sure I'll lose it by the time we get back to the show. But we were kind of forced into structure, and so we didn't get the kind of rest period that everybody else got. But it's all good, and all the fighting and kicking and screaming aside, we're able to kind of get through school for the most part.
God, I think John Rochette, who plays Tommy DeVito, I think just came on for a second. Hopefully we'll get him back here. So we have the 4 of you guys together. What I want to ask you is, who's cooking? What about culinary skills at home? Who's the big chef in each household? All right.
Yeah. Yesterday, actually.
I do a lot of meal prepping, so it's like nothing inventive.
Well, first let's say hello. John, how are you? Can you hear us?
Oh, no.
Nope.
I guess Alan will deal with John.
Are you with us, Johnny?
Hey!
There he is.
There you are.
Oh, my God.
We wanted to welcome.
Like my mother trying to figure out how to set the VCR to record Saved by the Bell for me. I'm so sorry. Hello, guys. This was a struggle. I don't even own a laptop, so I'm trying to do this from my phone. And I'm so sorry. Hello, everyone.
Well, we want to introduce you officially, John Rochette, who plays Tommy DeVito. So now I have all 4 of you here. Let's give a big applause for all of you. A big round of applause for all of you. Listen, John, we were just talking about like hunkering down.
I'm having such a hard time hearing you guys.
Oh, you can't hear us? John, can you hear me?
Better. Well, you guys keep talking, and I'm going to try to get this sound right on my end.
Get your sound right, and we'll add you into all this. We're just thrilled you're here. So let's talk about culinary. So culinary, like in each person's home. Aaron, what are you cooking? Who's the big chef in your home?
I'm the big chef most of the time. My wife does a lot of baking, but my daughter also loves doing like experiments and recipes and mixing things. And so I was able actually to get her involved in making lasagna. And so, because it's layers, and then we put this, and then we put that, and then we layer it and layer it and layer it. And so we've made several lasagnas over the last month and a half, and we love that. But yesterday, I found some ribs, and for the first time I cooked ribs. I grill a lot, and man, did they turn out good. Woo! I'm so excited. It's my very first attempt at ribs. I've always been afraid of like slow cooking things, and it turned out. So I'm excited about that.
That's awesome.
Jonathan, what are you cooking in your house?
Oh, I went through a mac and cheese phase. I mean, basically, I've stolen a bunch of recipes from my mom, and you know, she's a very healthy chef, and so I've got a pancakes recipe that I often make in the morning. I've got this lentil casserole that's very healthy but kind of tasty with lots of cheese on it. I've got a white chicken chili that's good. I like to cook I'm a big guy. I'm 6'4". I like to cook in bulk because I love just going and putting something in the microwave and having it ready, like a full meal ready to go in like a minute and a half or two.
Leftovers are the best.
Yeah. Love leftovers. And then like any frozen pizza I can get my hands on.
All right, CJ, for you.
Okay, hear me out. I'm not saying I'm an awful cook, but I'm certainly not a great cook. Okay. So that said, I have perfected the mildly seasoned chicken breast, the raw broccoli with ranch dressing, these string beans with some citrus on them. Okay. So like, you know, it's all healthy, and I try to balance that out by supporting my local economy and ordering Thai food every so often. And that's in my diet.
Well, at least you're adding flavor to all these things you make. So that's you're on your way up to being a really good chef.
Are key.
Yeah. You know, I want to ask all you guys, what is it like living in this wonderful world of this beautiful musical Jersey Boys? What is that like?
I will answer first, seeing as how I've lived in this world the longest.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's really amazing. You know, like you said earlier, it's such a feel-good sort of musical, and I don't want it to sound like it's a fluffy feel-good musical that doesn't have any content. That's not the case. The reason why it's such a feel-good musical is it's a real story about real guys that went through real stuff, and it's feel-good because of the journey they go on and what happens, and it's tragic, and it's filled with everything you could possibly imagine, which is one of the reasons why it's such a great show. But living in this show has been so rewarding and so wonderful. It has affected my life for the very best and for the rest of my life. Like I say, you know, I'm making lasagna with my daughter. I'm not Italian, but man, I feel Italian sometimes, you know, and it just like rubs off on you. But it's really quite amazing, and it's amazing to be a part of a show also that every tiny aspect is so perfectly coordinated. I've never been in a show where every lighting angle, every note, every word in the script, every piece of blocking, every choreographic step on stage has purpose and meaning, and is fun to motivate and to make work. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, CJ, you're kind of the newest to this show.
Yeah, I just joined like 6 months ago, so I'm definitely the newest to the family, which was so intimidating to walk into, because these people have known each other through many iterations of their life, like from the beginning to now, and I still think it like is sinking in, because like Jersey Boys and playing, and Bob Gaudio was like a post-it note on my mirror since I moved to New York, and to get that phone call, to finally be able to join this family, like I collapsed on. I was in the middle of recording my EP, and I was at the producer's house, and I collapsed on the wall, and just started crying. And he was like, "Everything good over there?" You know, it's unreal. It's such a good show. It is, like Aaron said, it is just so well thought out. It's so well conceived, which I feel like is such a rarity in musical theater sometimes. And so it's been a blessing. And like, I really hope that it continues after this, because it's a pleasure to get to do that show with these guys every night.
Jonathan, for you.
Yeah, a lot of the same. It's so well integrated, the way the music fits into the story, the way the transitions work, from the creatives, like the writing and the music, and to Sergio, Danny also, Sergio and Des, and what they did in putting it all together, and then what this company and the tour company that I was with, and this company, I just joined. I mean, I just joined the off-Broadway production about a month before we shut down. And I mean, I knew almost everyone from before, whether I was a swing in the off-Broadway company a summer before, or I'd met Aaron on the road when he came out to Salt Lake, and this company is such a dedicated company in telling the story. This is a really good company, and I miss them all so much. And it's just an honor, and it's a gift to get to tell this story with this group of people. And I can't wait to get back to doing it.
Yeah. You all have these fascinating journeys with this show. Who's done the most performances in any role? Who's holds that right now?
Aaron.
Of the three of us, definitely me. Before we shut down, I was somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,900 performances of Jersey Boys. About, I would say, maybe 1,500 of those would be when I was in the show in Las Vegas playing Joey, and the rest have been playing Frankie, either on tour or here in New York. And I know it's a lot of shows, and it's 8 years. It's the entire lifespan of my daughter, who was born, coincidentally, 30 minutes after I got the call from the casting office. Mary Sugarman's number pops up on my phone. We're in the delivery. My wife, and she was like, "Go, take it," because she's an actress. She knows, right? And so I ran out the door and got the good news and came back in, and now we can afford this baby. Yeah. So
that's a great story.
Yeah.
Jonathan, you have a big history with this show too, right? Where did it start for you?
I joined the tour in 2017 as a swing, and I covered Tommy, Nick, and Jip and Norm. And the second year on tour, I played Nick, and then I'm off Broadway now. And John Rochette also has a long history.
Yeah, he does.
Broadway. Oh, John can hear.
John can hear. John Rochette is with us. Just so you all know, John is coming back into the mix now.
He's lingering in the corner.
We love it. John, we're thrilled you're here. Can you hear us now?
I can hear you. You guys are doing great, by the way. I'm a big fan. I've been an avid listener, screaming at my telephone.
Well, listen, John, we're talking about who had like the longest history, but you've all got fascinating histories with this show. Tell us your history, John, with Jersey Boys.
Geez, it's been a long time. I've been doing it since around Christmas of 2011. And I've done probably about 3,200 performances, and it was always my dream show. And I saw it in previews on Broadway. I got a free ticket through Theater Mania Gold Club.
Wow, good for you.
Because kind of when it was in previews, forgive me if I'm repeating anyone, no one really cared about it, and they could barely get anyone to go. Producers are probably scratching their radios right now, but so I got a free ticket and I saw it previews, and I was just sort of godsmacked by it. And I remember intermission, I was by myself and I was getting a drink, and I went into the bathroom, and I remember it was kind of quiet because everyone was, and like this dude next to me just looked at me while we were peeing, and at first I was like, what the? But so he looks at me and he was like, "Isn't it really good?" And I was like, "It's really good." And then anyway, are you
sure he was talking about the show?
Kind of my dream. And then right, you guys lie. And then I eventually ended up getting it, and I was on the first national tour, as Norm Waxman and as the drummer and stuff like that. And then I did that tour for a couple years, and then that tour was starting to slow down, and that second national tour was starting, a sort of slightly more cost-effective to travel version. And then my wife ended up getting the show, and we did the end of tour 1 together. My now wife, she was not my wife at the time, Leslie Rochette.
Yeah.
So then I switched to the second tour. You wanted the long version, right?
You're giving us the long version. It's all good. It's all good.
I gotta make up for the airtime. These clowns have been chewing up too much airtime. So so then I did the second tour for a while, and then my spot opened up in the Broadway show, and I did that one for about 2 years, and then that ended, and then I ended up doing the New World one, which has been going on about 2 years or so.
Yeah, I just love that you went from Norm, but your dream role was always Tommy DeVito, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I ended up, through the years, I've understudied Bob and Nick and Tommy.
Yeah.
And on Broadway, I did all three. And Tommy was always the one, and I was always fighting, and I was always the guy who wanted the raise, like every understudy in the history of everything. Every understudy ever thinks that they're the guy who should be doing it, and everyone else is a clown. You know what I mean? And I was one of those millions, and I just kept fighting for it. And I think I just have stayed in the show long enough that I've just whittled all the producers down, and they're like, fine, just delete my email and you can be Tommy, and that's it, and we'll just move on. Okay.
Give it to Tommy.
And then I got it, and then the world ended, and now we're in a pandemic, and I can't even get my iPhone to work.
Listen, it's all going to come back, but you actually called the real Tommy DeVito, right? Did you have a conversation with him on the phone?
Yeah, I did. I did. There was a guy, John Gardner, who played Tommy in a bunch of versions, and he was in all kinds of things. And I remember years ago when I was Norm and he was Tommy, set up this thing where he went to Jersey and he drove around in Tommy's car. And Tommy was showing him all the old haunts and was showing him where he used to hide his baseball bat under the seat and stuff like that. And so when I got this, I was like, I want to call Tommy. So I called John. I was like, John, do you have Tommy's manager's number or agent, or how'd you get in touch with him? He's like, agent. Yeah. He's like, I have his phone number. And I was like, oh, okay. And he goes, some woman may answer and say God, I hope he's not listening. He's going to kill me. He's like, someone may answer and say it's his agent, but it'll be his wife. And, but no, he answered. So he answered and I called, and in like one ring, he's like, yeah, who's this? And I was like, hey, man. How are you? My name is John Rochette. I wanted to introduce myself. And he's like, okay. And I said, hey man, I'm in the show in New York, and I'm going to be playing your role. And just out of respect, I wanted to introduce myself to you. And he's like, yeah. I was like, yeah. I'm like, this is going well. And I'm on the streets on 9th Ave outside of a Chinese restaurant. I'm like, oh God. And I go, hey man, I just want you to know that I'm from New Jersey, and I live in Essex County now, and which is where Belleville is and all that. And I want you to know that I know that you are real people, and that we're representing real people here. And I just wanted to call out of respect to tell you that I'm going to do my best to do you justice. And I think you have such an interesting story. And just know that we here in New York recognize that we're recreating real people who had real stories, and so we feel an obligation to respect that. And I wanted to pass along that's what I want to do to you. And then he loved that, and he loved the fact that I was from New Jersey. And so then he started talking to me, and then it was cool. He didn't sound like he was going to kill me. And then he eventually was, and I was like, hey, if you ever have anyone who needs a ticket hookup, or you need someone to show them around backstage, and he was like, oh, wow. And he took my phone number down. And he's like, and if you ever need anything, call me. All right. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then he hung up.
That is great. You were talking about early on Jersey Boys. there was all the jukebox musicals had happened before Jersey Boys. So everybody was very skeptical about what Jersey Boys was going to be. And all of a sudden, like you said, during previews, but word of mouth hit right away, like you said. Everybody who went to see Jersey Boys, by intermission, they were on their feet, and they still are today, saying, wow, this is such a fabulous show. This is such a great show. Because not only is the music incredible, the story and the way the story is told, each of the four guys get to tell their own version of a story. How brilliant is that from Rick and Marshall? I mean, that is so brilliant. But I want to go back to you guys. What do you remember about your first performance on stage in Jersey Boys, in any role? Like when the first time you finally nailed this show, said, I got cast in this show. What do you remember about that first night on stage and how magical it was for each of you?
I feel like a lot of actors, we like black out the first performance because you're trying to stay on top of so many elements that you are like under rehearsed for, because that's just the nature of getting put into a show. And on top of like, so all of our tracks are like very complex and complicated, but Bob has 25 minutes to sit by yourself and like just like be filled with anxiety, and then you enter and you don't get a chance to stop. You just have to keep saying the next monologue or singing the next thing and doing the next little bit of choreo. So I had like 20 friends that basically surprised me that night. So like I just remember it being electric, but I wasn't letting myself stop ever, and just like kept chugging forward to like get to the end.
So you did, then you took your bow and it was all over, right?
And then I finally exhaled, and it was great.
It's been a long time since I had my very first shows, either my first Joey, which I honestly, it's been so long, I can't quite remember. What I do remember though, however, is the very first time I went on as, the second time I went on as Frankie. I was an understudy, and it happened. Two things were unique about it. One was it happened at intermission, and so the Frankie at the time got sick and couldn't finish the show. So mid-show, I had to change tracks, and it was my second time doing the show. But we were also in a bizarre situation where there was a woman playing a man's role in a couple of spots because we were in split track. And so I remember when you sing Can't Take, there's a moment where you turn up stage and the horn section walks on. And in those days we had 6 people in the horn section. And the first person walking on it's usually all men. Now we actually have women in there. But for the very first time, the first person walking on was a woman, and she had a trumpet up to her mouth and this grin on her face, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. And she was wearing some sort of like funny bob wig to make her look like a man. Anyway, and it was just like, I was like, this is my second time playing this role, and all these crazy things are happening. And it was just everything I could do not to just bust out laughing.
That is great.
I have 2. The first time I did the show, and this first one's brief, but we were on a one-nighter at a college in Illinois. I can't like Waukegan. I can't remember the name of, or not Illinois, Wisconsin. But it was a tiny town. We were on a one-nighter, and I was on for Jip, and I hadn't rehearsed it at all. I had never done a rehearsal of Jip. Luckily, he was like my next assignment. I think I had learned my first or second track, and I happened to be following him the night before. So at least I had his backstage tracking, and like you're running around changing costumes. It's kind of an ensemble track with features, and then you play Jip, and so that was the first time I went on. It was like a rush, and it actually went fine. But the first time I got to play Nick on tour, it was in April, and so we had been touring for 5 or 6 months, and it was in Rockford, Illinois, in this beautiful theater. And I've got a bunch of friends from Chicago because I went to school in Illinois, and a bunch of them drove out. And like I had 15 people at the show, and the crowd was crazy. It was like one of those quintessential Jersey Boys moments where the crowd was going crazy and everybody was dancing. And like, there's a moment in Who Loves You where every once in a while, the crowd starts to clap at the beginning of the song, and then it builds, and then they're like standing in the middle of the song and clapping along with you. And that happened. And it was just so exciting to be doing this playing Nick for my teacher. A couple of my professors came up from my school and my friends were there. It was just one of these magical moments.
John, for you.
Yeah. First time I did the show was in Fort Lauderdale at this massive theater, and I just remember the lights. It was just lights, and I had done a lot of shows obviously at that point, but I guess I'd never done a show with spotlights or with spotlights from up that high or something like that. And I just remember coming out being blinded, and it was this massive theater and just and the spotlights and I've had a billion screw ups through the years, but the only funny moment in that show was the first sort of entrance as Norm Waxman as he comes out and Tommy's like, "Oh yeah, Bob Crew, you need the money for the recording? I'll get it." And he runs over and Norm goes, "You're late." And my track had done a million things up to that point, and I was always running around. And my first sort of break to more than a 30-second quick change break was right before that scene. And I remember I had a break backstage, and I was drinking water, and I was like, "Oh man, finally a breather. This is great. I got all this time." And the guy's like, "You're on. So I run, and then I come running out, and again, it was John Gardner as Tommy. And I enter not super late, but in the stage world, it felt like 4 hours, but it's probably 4 seconds late. And I come out and I'm like, "You're late." And he's like, "I'm late." And anyway, so that was it.
So I was going to ask you, I've spoken to a lot of different cast members from a lot of shows. Like the Hamilton cast calls it going to the White Room. Like if you go up during a show, or the craziest things that have happened, like you were late making your entrance. And of course, John, you felt like it was 4 hours. Craziest thing for you other guys during your runs in Jersey Boys? Did you go up on dialogue, or were you late or something? Or what was the craziest thing that happened to you on stage during a performance of Jersey Boys?
I've got a pretty good one. The night after that Nick performance for my friends in Illinois, we went up to Green Bay, and I was on for the Norm Waxman track for the first time. I'd never done it. And there is a moment where I'm supposed to strike a table. Nick comes downstage, and they've just been at a hotel bar, and he comes downstage. He does a very brief direct address to the audience. And there's a table upstage of him, and I'm supposed to walk across. And similar to John, I've gotten through the first act, which is just a ton of costume changes. It's like feels like you're thrown into chaos. And so the second act is much slower, and so I'm feeling good about myself. I feel like I've kind of made it. So I'm like, okay, I get to breathe for a second here. And I'm backstage talking to somebody, and I hear on stage, boom! Scatter, 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 scatter. And like, we're like, oh my God, what just happened? He had run into the table that I was supposed to strike.
Oh.
And these tables, it's like, 4.5 feet high. It's a high table, and it's on coasters, and it's got glasses and stuff on it. And so he knocks it down, and he's on stage trying to like pick it up, and he can't get it back on its wheels. So he just like carries it off sideways, and I felt so bad. That was one of my biggest screw ups, and it was even worse because it affected somebody else that way.
What was the rest of the show like for you? Are you paranoid, like in your mind, like look what I've done to this performance?
Well, the rest of the show is pretty slow for that track. So, but yes, I was second guessing everything else. I mean, as a swing, when you have 4 or 5 tracks in your head, you're every time I'm on for a new track at that point, I was paranoid that I was supposed to be doing something else. Like, you're trying to get your mind in that one track, but then you're also thinking of the other ones, and you're just always paranoid. So I was especially that much more paranoid after I did that for the rest of the show. But luckily it was in the second act, so there wasn't that much more to go.
Well, first we have to give a big shout out to Swings, because I don't know how anybody does that when you've got
Amen.
4 and 5 tracks. And like you said, sometimes you're on at an intermission when someone gets sick, or like, wait a minute. And so many tracks are similar to the other. So let's give a big shout out to Swings, the unsung heroes, and you've all done it.
Absolutely.
Who's got the next story? About the craziest thing that's happened on stage in Jersey Boys.
I don't have much to pull from, but it was like 5 months into doing Bob, and he walked out with his Varvisa. In the very beginning, the introduction to his character, and I was like, I'm gonna really play Short Shorts tonight on the keyboard. I'm gonna actually really play it tonight. And so I invested so much time and energy in the moment playing Short Shorts, and then I look up for his opening monologue. And I just stepped into the white room and panicked. And I was literally just like, hi, Bob Gaudio. I write songs. 15, 17, but when I was 17, it all went away. And then luckily the guy runs on and we continue the scene. I was just like, here's my white flag. I surrender. And I never played Short Shorts ever again.
Love it. Aaron, for you.
I have to go back to that second time I was on as Frankie. Now, I can't tell this story in its entirety because there may be young listeners, and we use profanity in our show in a beautiful way, actually. Yeah. But there's a scene where Frankie and Bob go to the Brill Building, and they're knocking on doors trying to get a producer to produce their songs. And it was that same time there was a girl on in a guy's track, and we had thought about everything except for that moment. And that third door opens, and they basically shut us down. They say no, and Frankie has some choice words that he says to this man. Well, it was a woman, and as I was getting to the third door, I realized, oh my gosh, I can't call a woman these words. It would be bad. And so I didn't know what to do. And so as the line came up, instead of using one expletive, I used a different expletive, which ended up being far worse than if I had said one. And immediately, the audience, you could feel them be like, oh, they hated Frankie. They hated him. It was terrible. And so I never really got them back after that.
Yeah. I want to talk about the fan base. Like you said, from day one of Jersey Boys, your show has a fan base unlike any other show. They just come back over and over and over. Favorite fan story for each of you, what is it?
I don't know if I have a favorite fan story, but I mean, doing this show in Atlantic City was a unique experience. We were down there for 4 weeks last summer, and we had every time you do Jersey Boys, you've got people coming that they see you after and they're like, oh, we've seen it 30 times. Oh, we've seen it 75 times. People just keep coming back to the show. But man, doing it in Atlantic City, it was like being, I mean, as much as doing it in New York is a home crowd, Atlantic City and even New Brunswick, when we were in New Brunswick, it's just so exciting. People feel the show. They know the show. It just is like you're preaching to the choir.
I'll say something. My favorite fan stories, and especially what we, super fans or whatever you want to call people that come back to the show again and again. When you sit and talk with them, which sometimes we get a chance to do, sometimes we don't, you begin to realize what the show means to them. And there's one particular fan that we have who comes because she has health issues, and when she sits down in that theater and the music starts to play and the lights come up, she goes to a place that is happy and free of all of her problems, right? And I'm like, knowing that we can do that for her is absolutely the best possible feeling you can have. And I think this show, one of the reasons why we have such a strong fan base is because not only that, but people have a personal connection to the songs, to the story, like playing in Jersey, playing in New York, where these people, you know, every once in a while we get someone that comes to the show and says, oh, I know Frankie, my mom used to babysit, you know, Frankie's daughter, you know, like, or Tommy's, you know, ex-girlfriend used to this, you know, whatever. Like, everybody around here has a personal connection to these guys. And then everybody else has some sort of personal connection to the song. We danced our first wedding dance to this song, you know? And so when an older couple comes and shakes your hand after the show and you see tears in both of their eyes being, you took us back, you know, you took us back. It's amazing. It's amazing to be able to be a part of that.
Beautiful.
There was a trio of 3 older women that used to always come, and one of them passed away like 2 months ago, a month ago, and her 2 friends came and sat in the front row and had made shirts that said like "in loving memory of," and that like destroyed me on stage. It was like it was the most beautiful thing to see.
They sent us a copy of her eulogy, and it mentions the show bringing joy to her life in her eulogy. Like, it was such an important part of her life, the last, you know, 15 years of her life, that it was mentioned in her obituary, right?
Beautiful. John, for you.
Yeah. My wife and I were lucky enough to do the show in Japan for 2 weeks while we were on tour. It was a North American tour, but it did this little short leg in Japan. And the fans there were just so amazing, and not that they're not here, but I guess it's very much in their culture to give lots of gifts, you know, out of thanks and stuff. And then after the show, there was lots of gifts and lots of personalized gifts. And then when I was doing the show in New York, I even recognized tons of fans from Japan who said they had to come back and see the show again. And then they would have framed pictures of them and my wife and I. And all kinds of photographs and videos on their phone from when they met us, and then even drawings from the photo they took of us, and it was just really beautiful to have someone from so far away still want to come see it again and remember you, and they just love the show so much, and just their connection, not that they love me, but their connection with me is their personalized connection to the show.
See, that's what I love about your show in general, because talking about your fan base, there are generations after generations that come to your show. I mean, there are people who are now bringing their kids who weren't around when the show first started, and now they become Jersey Boys fans. So that's what I love about your show more than anything. But it's also the music. Everyone is connected to the songs of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. I mean, that's got to be one of the biggest takeaways you must get when you meet these people. Like you said, this is the first song I had on my first date, or this is one of the songs that we danced at our first wedding. You don't get that with everything. And do you guys have a favorite song, especially with what we're going through now with this pandemic? Have you listened to some of the songs? Are some of them hitting you in a different way emotionally than they did before? Do you have a favorite that's going through your mind now with the pandemic that we're going through?
You know, My Eyes Adored You, but I Never Laid a Hand on You. I mean, that's very sanitary. So that's an appropriate choice. I've always loved Working My Way. Sorry, it's been a minute. Working My Way has always been, for the longest time, was my favorite song in the show. I love the beat. I love it. At that point, Frankie's kind of on top of his game. It's his season. It's his moment in the show. It's right after Can't Take. It's really a great moment. And I've always just loved that song. I think it's grooves. It's such a great song.
Yeah.
I think I feel like maybe I'm partial, but Cry for Me is just such a cool moment in the show, and it's so exposed. It's so vulnerable in the beginning, and then just having the guys join and start singing, and you hear the sound for the first time, and it's just so magical. It is it's so magical getting to do that song. So I'm literally looking forward to sitting down at the piano again and getting to play that and sing with these guys. And like, yeah, that's what I'm thinking
just
about.
Pretend to play. Don't actually play. Okay.
Yeah. I play sometimes.
No, I know. I just don't want you to go in the white room again.
Yeah, I don't know. There's so many moments in the show that are magical, and there's so much of the music that Bob wrote or that they wrote that is so memorable and impactful. And I don't know if I have a song from the show that speaks to me right now, but what I am looking forward to is Who Loves You. And there's this really cool, some of the alumni from Jersey Boys put together this amazing Who Loves You video with alumni from all the way back to La Jolla, 275 people, I think, singing Who Loves You. And
cool.
It like from home in boxes and separated into the different casts that they were in. And that kind of made me really nostalgic in this time to be a part of this family and to have a theater family to be a part of, and like thanking the essential workers that are dedicating their lives to getting us back to normal. And so I'm really looking forward to, and it's in the show, it's a celebration at the end of the show of us coming back together and singing as a group after, in the show, Nick has passed away. And that's something that really speaks to me right now, I guess.
Beautiful. John, for you.
Yeah, Rich, forgive me. I can only hear you right now, so forgive me if I'm repeating the other guys, but I'm sure you guys are all doing great.
We're just thrilled you're here. We're thrilled that you were able to make this work.
Aren't I such a great, helpful, responsible interview? No, I won't make up a story that the pandemic has opened my eyes to something, but just speaking on the show in general, I think being in it, we have such a different perspective than the audience member. I mean, I always love during Can't Take. That's where I see the couples, put their hands on each other and hold hands and like, oh, honey, that's that song. And, but I don't often get the pleasure of watching it from the audience. So from the inside, we're not eating the sausage. We sort of are making the sausage kind of thing. So it's a different vibe. But to me, what I really just miss is the opening, which is that song Silhouettes, where it's right where the guys stroll down and go, and then took a walk and past your house. I think because maybe that's the first thing selfishly I do, and it's the first time you see the guys. So right when you asked that question, that's what, instead of making up an answer, that's what came to mind. I think because it means we're starting Jersey Boys. And I think all we want to do is start Jersey Boys. So hearing that song in my head signifies that oh my God, we're doing it and we're here and we're starting the show and we're starting this story. So that's what I hear in my head when you ask the question.
Beautiful. CJ, I want to give a big shout out to you because you have a new EP, right? I mean, you have an EP as a singer-songwriter. Tell us about your album.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. My debut singer-songwriter EP launched about 2 months ago. It's very pop, folk pop inspired. Oh man, it was such a beautiful learning experience over the past 6 months. And I've always considered myself a singer-songwriter, and I never came out with an EP. I had nothing on Spotify, and that was always in the back of my head. And finally, I was just like, if not now, then when? So I just started chugging ahead, and these 5 songs were written around the same time in my life, kind of encapsulating my experience with love and life in New York City. So it's been received so incredibly well, and it's been so humbling, and I'm so excited to see where this goes from here after we're all surviving the pandemic together.
I love that. That's beautiful. My final question for all of you guys, what have you learned about yourselves during this stay at home?
I've been reminded personally that I need structure in my life to accomplish anything. If I don't have structure and a plan, it's going to be me and the Switch, all day long, or me watching movies or something like that. But something I've known about myself for a long time, but this has been a really good reminder. Because what happens when you have a job in a long running job like I've had, and I'm so grateful and I've been so blessed, and I love my job. The rest of the day kind of sometimes can be open because I don't have to worry about finding, I know I've got a job for now. And so I'm most productive when I have a plan and when I structure my life. And so it's been a good reminder to me of don't forget how important it is for me to have that structure in my life.
Great.
I think I just learned like the importance of like human touch and how much we take that for granted every day.
Yeah.
Like when you're at the show and you're like giving nugs to somebody or like a quick hug, like there's worth and value in that, in those like small interactions. And so it's something that we're all faced to think about every day of like, when's the next time you're going to get to give someone a handshake or hug your mom, who I think is watching right now. Hi, Mom. So yeah, I look forward to a time when there's nothing fearful in that again.
Beautiful. John, for you.
John, me, yeah. I realize what a absolute creature of habit I am, and I realize that I haven't changed at all since I was 13. I mean, now that I have all this free time, all I do is go down to my basement and play drums all day, which is exactly what I used to do in my parents' basement. And just what a creature of habit I am. Even though I'm not going to do the show, my wife and I have sort of stayed on the same routine. We hang out all morning, and then in the afternoon I go do a project, and then we sort of hang out at 4 o'clock, and then I disappear into the basement when it would be showtime. I'm playing cards with my friends online or working on something, and then we come up and we eat like a late 9:30 dinner, and then we sit and watch TV. And she's like, "Isn't it crazy, this pandemic?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I mean, I'm not a 9-to-5er, so we're essentially living the same life, except I don't have any money and I'm not doing Jersey Boys. But shy of that, time-wise, my wife and I are sort of on the same schedule. So I'm like my dogs. I'm just such a creature of habit, and I can't get out of it."
That's great. Jonathan, for you.
I think I've been reminded so many times during this of why I do what we do, and I'm going to try to not get emotional as I give this answer, but I've been reminded of what inspires me, and that's artists, that's musicians, that's actors, that's people collaborating and coming together to tell stories that are human. I just watched Unorthodox on Netflix, and Shira Haas, I hope I'm saying that right, but her performance just is unbelievable in a story so worth telling. I mean, listening to Leonard Bernstein play Rhapsody in Blue, just diving back into watching the Braves win the '95 World Series, just diving back into things that inspire me and make me want to continue to live and create and to inspire other people, because that's so important in a time when we're all so isolated and we can't have human touch, and our world is changing every day, and it's people and performances and artists that we turn to in times like this, and it's been inspiring to see that.
The other interesting thing is none of us know what the new normal is going to be or when it's actually going to come back. And one thing I've taken away from you guys and from everybody else I've spoken to, it's like, I think we're going to live in the moment. When you're with somebody, it's just going to be really heavy eye contact, and you're not going to be worrying about tomorrow because we haven't had that human touch with more than 1 or 2 people being isolated. I mean, that's what I'm taking away from all of this. It's just really being connected to people and really staying focused and living in the moment.
So great. So true.
Yeah.
Completely.
Well,
yeah.
I also want to thank our audience who tunes in. I mean, the audiences have been great because they connect with you guys. I mean, they watch you, your human souls and hearts. you inspire people of just letting them hear your stories of what you're doing during your hunkering down and how honest you've been of saying, you know, I can be creative, I can't be creative. I'm trying to add structure in my life. I'm a creature of habit. You know, we're all going through this together and everyone's trying to find their way through all of this. So I want to thank you guys. I want to thank our audience. And for our audience watching, if you're ever thinking of giving a donation to an arts organization, one of the biggest is BroadwayCares.org, because during this time period, Broadway Cares would have raised over $6 million with the Red Bucket Follies, which they would have given to the Actors Fund and everything else. And they didn't have it this time period. So what they do have is the COVID-19 Emergency Assistance Fund online. And Broadway Cares has already raised, I think it's now at $5 million, which they have already donated to the Actors Fund. Wow. So if you're ever thinking of giving $1 or $5 or $10 or something that you have, think of Broadway Cares. And guys, listen, I'm going to be there. I cannot wait to see the four of you do this show. As you can see behind me, I've got a signed photo of the four originals. Jersey Boys has been in my life since it first appeared on Broadway. I've seen it in many incarnations on Broadway and across the country. I cannot wait to celebrate with you guys at New World Stages when you go back for your first performance and those lights hit you and you hear that music and the audience goes crazy. I will be there for you guys, just so you know that Broadway World loves you guys. Everybody stay safe, wash your hands, and we'll be there when the theater comes back. Thank you guys for being with me today.
Thank you, Richie.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
You, Richie.
Yeah.
Take care.
You're from my neighborhood, you got three ways out. You could join the army, you could get mobbed up, or you could become a star. Big girls don't cry. Big girls don't cry. Walk like a man, fast as I can. Walk like a man from you. I'll tell the world, forget about it, girl.
And walk like a man from
Begging you, put your loving hands out, baby. Begging you, put your loving hands out, baby.
You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You'd be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much. At long last, love has arrived, and I thank God I'm alive. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you.
Who loves you, pretty